there, welcome back to the Scottish Land and Estates podcast, Scotland Matters. Today we are at the Royal Highland Show. The stand is filling up with guests and our very important speakers that will be featuring on this episode later on. This episode is going to be a behind-the-scenes sneak peek of what SLE get up to at the Highland Show. If you'd like to support the podcast, please follow, share, like your favourite episodes, and don't forget to follow us on social media. So yeah, thank you very much for watching or listening, and I'll see you later on.
So I'm here with Alex Bailey, a Scottish Land and Estates member who I'm really pleased has agreed to come and chat to us about the Royal Highland Show today. This morning we obviously launched our Scottish Land and Estates manifesto piece about our priorities for rural Scotland. I just wondered, what are your priorities for rural Scotland in this general election?
My priority would be making rural Scotland a priority in this general election, where we have not been properly represented by Holyrood. I don't feel that they have got the measure of what's needed to really deal with the challenges that our particular situation have. The number of challenges that we've got are just beyond belief, to be honest. We have very few growth industries, we have very few opportunities for young people, we have lack of public services, and we've not really had an indication that these things are going to change or what direction we're going to be moving in the future.
Absolutely, and this year's Royal Highland Show is set in the context of the general elections. It's also set in the context of a lot of other legislation that's going on in Holyrood. So you talked a little bit about how you feel Holyrood maybe isn't delivering for rural communities. The Agricultural and Rural Communities Bill has just passed in the Scottish Parliament. I know agriculture is something you're involved in on a professional level. What are your initial thoughts about the passing of the bill? Are you pleased to see this legislation finally get through?
Well, we've been waiting for it for an awfully long time now. It's something which we need that clarity to be able to make those long-term decisions. Nothing in agriculture happens overnight. It always has to have a lead-in time, and without having that steer, without having that direction, without having the confidence that legislation is behind us, I think it's been very difficult for everybody within the agricultural sector to make sensible decisions, long-term decisions which are best for them, their land, and the country in general. And be able to deliver the things that we need, the food, the wildlife, and the public and the sort of natural capital services that all farmers produce but may not be rewarded for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, really important point. You talked a little bit about natural capital there, which is clearly going to be a point of interest going forward. It's a relatively new concept, but I wonder if that's something that you think is going to be talked about here at this year's Royal Highland Show. Do you think it's something that people here are aware of?
I'd like to think that people are aware of it. It's been talked about a lot over the years. I think at the Highland Show, in certain circles it will be called natural capital, but in other places it might just be called sensible stewardship, good management of the land, minimum tillage, or maybe going to more extreme examples, sort of agri-forestry or integrated regenerative agriculture. There's lots of names for this, and it's not a new concept. It's rooted in things which have been done for generations, many generations, well before mechanisation that was how land was managed. It's just really a way of turning back the clock a little.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm glad you think that people here do understand that, and it's really great to be here at the Royal Highland Show. The final question for you is what are you looking forward to most about the show? What have you enjoyed most? And what do you think people are really talking about?
I mean, the chat at the Highland Show is great. It's just great to be able to talk to people who are involved. You've got such a wide variety of viewpoints, and people from all over the country come together. They can all talk about things, and it's great. It's really fun to be here. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Alex. Cheers for your time.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Thank you.
So this morning's Scottish Land Estates launched our paper on our priorities for rural Scotland ahead of the general election in 2024. With me here to discuss that launch is Ross Ewing, our Director of Moorland, and Nadia Flaherty, our Wildlife Management Policy Advisor. Now, both of you focus primarily on issues that are devolved to the Scottish Parliament, but I was really keen to hear your thoughts on the launch this morning and what you think this paper can really do for rural Scotland, and how you think that these policies that we've announced in terms of rural proofing, in terms of trade, immigration, agricultural funding, how you think these can really boost rural Scotland and help rural Scotland thrive. So Ross, I wanted to speak to you first. I know clearly people and manpower is so important for the effective running of moorland. So we've launched a policy on immigration, encourage rural visa pilot schemes to come to the fore. I wonder what your thoughts were about how that support is.
It's a really good point, Cameron, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a misconception, I think, perhaps among many people that SLE predominantly lobby in Holyrood, in Edinburgh, but actually there is so much that does impact on rural business that is actually reserved to Westminster. So having a policy around immigration, and in particular creating rural visa pilots, is really important. We know that there is a workforce deficit across rural Scotland, particularly when it comes to seasonal employment, and I think it's really, really important that we take steps as an organisation to try and highlight that in the strongest possible terms. And if I may say as well, the other thing, and it's related to immigration, the fundamental importance of ensuring that legislation that comes out of Westminster, but this of course applies to Holyrood as well, is rural proof. It's a really, really important concept to make sure that actually legislation that's being passed by either Parliament in the UK is fit for purpose when it comes to rural areas, and actually our rural visa pilots policy idea, I think, is a really good example of how we can ultimately make things work better for rural Scotland.
Clearly, ensuring that policy is written and designed with rural communities, rural workers in mind is a really, really important facet of what we're trying to do in terms of the UK government. Nadia, I wonder if you had any further thoughts on that, about how we can encourage both of our governments to design rural policy. I wonder what your thoughts are on how we can really encourage the government in Westminster and the government in Holyrood to do that.
I think it's crucial that we continue to show that members in rural areas and our rural workers and rural businesses are delivering on the government targets. They're the ones that are helping achieve what the government want to do, and for them to make policy they need to remember that this will also affect those in the rural areas that are working for them. We need to all work together, and we all have the same ambitions and want to get to the same place.
It's here today at the Royal Highland Show, so I wanted to ask both of you what you're looking forward to most about the show. In terms of engaging with our rural communities here, farming communities, the agricultural fraternity is here, out in force. What are you guys really looking forward to seeing today, Nadia?
So it's great to see the members out today, especially all the farmers that have taken time out of silage in this such a nice day. It's just great to hear the buzz that's going around, but I am looking forward to going to see the goats.
Oh, excellent. Goats. Can you trump that, Ross?
Well, I was going to say, it's always really, really good opportunity to engage with members. We're so lucky that all the events that we put on across the duration of the Highland Show, we get a really strong showing from SLE members, and that's really, really important. But I'm with Nadia. The animals do tend to steal the show. I've got a particular passion for Clydesdale horses, and I'll be looking forward to seeing them show. There was some showing going on this morning, but they are magnificent beasts, and I would quite like to see what happens in the ring later today, and which of those that are being shown are successful and which are not so successful.
And not to forget about the pipe band.
Oh, the pipe band, yeah.
When they come round, that's always a highlight.
And the pimps that we do on the SLE stand, internationally renowned for being one of the best things that we offer as an organisation.
Fantastic. So much to look forward to. Nadia, Ross, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks,
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So really pleased to be joined by Will and Lynne from Scottish Forestry here, who will shortly be hosting a forestry reception on the Scottish Land and Estate stand at Royal Highland Show this year. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Will, could you tell us a bit about what you're going to be talking to our members about at the reception this afternoon?
So I'm here as a woodland creation officer in central Scotland. So what we're promoting is a free farm woodland assessments for landowners within the Central Scotland Green Network, which covers the area between Ayrshire in the west and the Lothians in the east. And it's essentially a free, no obligation report that will map potential areas for tree planting. It will identify potential grants that are available and the costs for planting and for protection, and essentially provide a decision-making tool for landowners. So we want to get that message out there that this is available for people, and if they have any interest, then they should look on our website or get in touch with me directly.
Absolutely, yeah, thanks for that, Will. And I know that woodland creation is a huge part of what landowners are trying to deliver for Scotland and help us move towards net zero. So, Lynne, I wonder if you could talk to me about how Scottish Forestry work with landowners to help build that and how they collaborate.
Myself and Hilary Grant from the Scottish Government look after the Integrated Tree Network. So it's a farmer-led network with 10 host farmers across Scotland who have planted trees for all different reasons, whether it be for timber, shelter, shade, to do with riparian planting and things like that. So we go into farm, have virtual events and that kind of thing, and just let them tell their story. So we're just there to facilitate and help farmers, estate managers and things like that think, well, maybe we could do just a wee bit, or just actually speak to other farmers that have done it. And we don't shy away from anything. We look at the challenges and things like that as well. So there's the practical things that people actually want to discuss. From our point of view, it's just facilitating that journey for people and starting them being able to speak to other farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many farmers are already delivering all of this, and so many farmers want to in the future. Well, you're just about to talk to our members, so I'm keen to let you go. What is your key message today to our members about delivering?
It's just to make people aware that the forestry grant support is available, and it's tailored to lots of different options. So there's 9 options. It can suit anybody from productive, as Lynne said, to broadly. Whatever your objective is, there's something that will work for you. So I just encourage people to get in touch with us if they're interested, ask questions, and we can try and help you through the process.
Magic. And finally, just quickly, what are you looking forward to most about the Royal Highland Show this year?
I think it's actually just being out and meeting people, to be perfectly honest. I travel a lot and meet a lot of farmers and everything like that, but it's just nice to have a day and have a chat with people and meet up again and find out what people have been doing and what they're interested in, because that's the big thing with us, is actually finding out what farmers are interested in, because we're farmer-led. We want to do things that will help people advance their business.
Absolutely.
I'm just looking forward to going to the food store and trying some samples, to be honest.
That's a correct answer. Well, Lynne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Enjoy the rest. So I'm delighted to be joined here today by the Scottish Conservative Shadow Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs, Rachael Hamilton, and the convener of the Rural Affairs and Islands Committee, Finlay, Carson. Thank you very much for joining me here today. So the Scottish Conservatives at the Royal Highland Show this year launched their Rural Manifesto. It's a really great event, and it's good to see parties taking rural communities seriously in the context of this year's general election. But Rachael, I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about the highlights from that manifesto.
Yeah, there are 2 aspects to the Scottish Conservative Rural Manifesto, Cameron. One is specifically about agriculture, and the other one is specifically about supporting rural communities. And on agriculture, we agree with the UK government. We want to see $1 billion extra of funding UK-wide for farming. It's important because farmers have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the environmental objectives that they have or are expected to achieve over the next few years. And we also want a commitment to multi-annual funding, and we also want to see ring fencing. We want to see the commitment from the Scottish Government to bring back the 46 million that was taken from the portfolio that was technically ring fenced. There are other aspects of the manifesto that are really important for rural communities, such as bringing forward a review of the NHS funding formula, because we don't want rural communities to be second-class citizens when they get access to healthcare services. And lastly, one of the headline areas is around a rural charter. It's similar to what SLE are looking at in terms of rural proofing, but it would enshrine in law the impact of legislation on rural communities.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there that rural communities would be really happy to see. A lot on agriculture as well. At Finlay, the Scottish Parliament's just passed the Agriculture and Rural Communities Bill, and you were really at the heart of scrutinising that. Are you happy with how the bill looks now that it's passed at stage 3?
There's not a lot changing it. There was lots of amendments come forward, but actually we've still got what is an effective framework bill which just allows the government to make payments towards agricultural support, rural communities. The real meat and the bones will come when we see the rural support plan, and that's really what we wanted to see before stage 3, to ensure that the government were travelling in the right direction, to ensure that landowners, farmers, land managers had an idea of where the government's direction of travel was, what their objectives of the plan is, and we're still in the dark over that. We've had 8 years of a vacuum where there was very little policy over food production, food security, and in general just how the Scottish Government approaches rural depopulation, or we really want to see repopulation. And I think that's why it's so encouraging that we've got a commitment to review the health formula. NRAC, I don't think it's fit for purpose. We often see rural areas getting an arbitrary percentage of the national spend, which is not good enough. We've seen that with housing. Rather than working out how much rural housing we need, they looked at the national picture and said that rural Scotland should get 10% of that. Arbitrary, and it doesn't address the problem. It's the same with the health. We need to make sure that our community hospitals, our community GPs, our rural GPs are all supported. And if we want people to live in rural areas, we know it costs more, and we need the government to commit to that additional funding.
Absolutely. And last year at the Royal Highland Show, a lot of the chatter was around the agriculture bill. It was at the sort of early stages of scrutiny then. We didn't know that the rural communities aspect of the bill was going to be included, so it was really good that you could touch on those points. This year, we have a bill, it's passed now, and the conversation is maybe starting to move on a little bit. So I wonder, what are you looking forward to at the show this year? What do you want to see, and what do you want to hear from the Scottish Government about how they're going to support agricultural communities into the future?
As Finlay says, we're really keen to see detail, because all the stakeholders that you speak to at the show say that it's important for farmers to know what's happening in the next 5, 10, 20 years, and they will make investment decisions based on that. I think in terms of other organisations that are here, we're just here to listen. We're here to listen to the challenges, and I mean we've got an election coming up, Cameron, as well. So it's great to be able to have these positive policy points with a vision to talk about, compared to the government who've got nothing to talk about.
We've still got a lot of important legislation. We've got land reform coming up. We're going to have a new climate change plan, biodiversity plan, maybe a biodiversity bill. So it's really important we speak to the representative bodies, find out what the challenges and opportunities are, and make sure that when we're in the chamber, when we're in committees, that we can be the voice of rural areas, because I think the Scottish Conservatives, certainly the party that understand. A lot of us have worked in the rural sector. We live and we're born and bred in rural Scotland. We realise how often that's the whole objectives. The organisations that we see at the show, they don't cut through with the urban central SNP government. So that's one of our roles, making sure that voice is heard right at the centre of the government.
Absolutely. And just finally, quickly before we end, as you mentioned, we are in a general election year. The Scottish Conservatives have been quite successful in opposition to the SNP in Scotland in forcing the hand to change direction on a few occasions. If the polls are to be believed, and the Conservatives end up in opposition in Westminster, what lessons do you think they can learn from you and your colleagues in Holyrood about how to be that effective opposition?
Yeah, well, I mean, in Scotland it's a very different scenario, because we have been on the front foot since the referendum on independence in 2014, and then the Brexit referendum in 2016, and we've had to face deeper challenges than they have in the rest of the United Kingdom, because Scotland is unique, and we recognise that I think the Scottish Conservatives are the only party that actually stand up for rural Scotland.
Thank you very much for your time, Rachael, Finlay. Cheers. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Cameron.